the restoration of her family's approval. All she had to do was hand over the letter, forget what she'd learned. But then she remembered Mrs. Patterson Elizabeth, dying alone in room 237, her true identity buried with her. She thought of James, working nights to pursue his dreams despite the odds stacked against him. "Mr. Pierce," she said finally, "I'm an old woman. I've lived through wars, immigration, discrimination, and loss. I've built a life from nothing once before. Do you really think your threats, or your bribes, could frighten me now?" His face hardened. "Mrs. Chen, don't make this difficult. We can make your life very uncomfortable. Your son's career, your continued residency here, all of it depends on your cooperation." "Does it?" Margaret's voice took on an edge of steel. "Or perhaps it depends on what else we found besides the letter. Something that might already be in safer hands than mine." Pierce's composure cracked just slightly. "What do you mean?" But Margaret had spent decades perfecting her mahjong face. "I think you should leave now, Mr. Pierce. Before I call the nurse and make a scene about a strange man threatening an elderly resident." He studied her for a long moment, calculation visible behind his eyes. Finally, he straightened his tie. "This isn't over, Mrs. Chen." "No," she agreed quietly. "I don't suppose it is." After he left, Margaret sank into her chair, trembling with delayed reaction. She had just challenged one of the most powerful organizations in San Francisco, armed with nothing but a hidden letter and a bluff about additional evidence. Her phone buzzed again. "Emergency at work. Can't make shift tonight. Don't trust anyone. Jay." Margaret stared at the message, her blood running cold. James had found something at the bank, something important enough to make him a target. And now he was missing. As night fell over Sunshine Valley Care Home, Margaret Chen faced a terrible choice. She could surrender the letter, accept Pierce's offer, and return to a life of comfortable irrelevance. Or she could fight, risking everything, including her son's future and possibly her own safety, to uncover a truth that had been buried for decades. In her younger years, Margaret had always played it safe, accepting the limitations others placed on her. But now, at 70, what did she really have to lose? She reached for her phone, her arthritis-gnarled fingers moving slowly, but with purpose. It was time to call in the one person who might be able to help, someone who had every reason to hate the Hamiltons as much as she now did. What she didn't know was that her call would